Let me first say we had the Lady Boss Roundtable Summit this past Saturday. I felt as if it was phenomenal, thanks in part to you. You dropped a lot of jewels, a lot of nuggets, just a lot of inspiration in telling us your story as well. And I kind of forgot to do Q&A. So here because we just.
Well, we were just having a great time. Yeah, that's why.
We were so into it. And then it was like, okay, let's go to the next thing. Let's do the roundtables, what have you. So I'm like, let's develop this series of, getting our awesome panelists and allowing people who joined and people who weren't able to make it to answer, to ask rather some questions that they might have regarding overcoming mental roadblocks.
Yes, absolutely.
That's why we are here. And I just really appreciate you being able to agree to this last minute. So thank you so much, first of all.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I thought we had it was a really dynamic group of women on Saturday. I had, thank you for acknowledging the jewels I dropped, but I picked up so many. And isn't that what it's about in every exchange, that we leave something and we take something? That's like every exchange is valuable for that reason,
I totally agree. Well, let's dive in. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so there's so many directions we could go with that. It's very open-ended, but obviously I am a business owner. I am a creative. I am a mother. I'm a professional speech coach. I am an elected official. So I'm a township trustee in my. Thank you. So I wear a lot of different hats. But the hat that is consistent through all of those roles is that I care about people. Mm-hmm.
So when did you start your business?
Okay, so the collective, the collective. So the collective was launched in August of 2017. So this is going to be our 5th year. We had our unforgettable anniversary last year. And so this is going to be our 5th year. And the collective is a lifestyle boutique that has products that touch all aspects of your life. We have everything from tabletop to jewelry to baby to apparel. And we also, and about 80 to 85% of the products that we carry are woman-owned brands, so very intentional about that. And then another 25 to 30% are products that have a heartful cause behind that, so very intentional about that as well. Mm-hmm. And we also have a Makery, where you take classes and have experiences. So it's a really unique business model. But yeah, so 5 years.
Wow, congratulations. So what is your why? Like, why did you start your business?
Another two such great questions. So I read a book a number of years ago when I led a book club, and it was called The Red Tent. And it was a book that talked about how women took care of each other. So in spite of jealousy or whatever personality differences they had, when you were in the red tent, you were loved up and cared for by women. And you went into the red tent when you didn't feel well, having your cycle, when you're having a baby. So in that time, all of the nonsense, all the pettiness is pushed aside because you are loved up and taken care of. So I had this idea that I always wanted to create a space where women kind of had their cup refilled, where no matter what was happening on the outside, they could place and be filled. And so that's what we do, because we have so many goods that have stories, shopping inspired, and in the Makery, you're creating a community. So it does that for women. Women come in who, maybe they're struggling with the perfect gift, or maybe they're just struggling, and just coming in and being around all of that inspiration and goodness is healing. Or maybe they learn that they have a creative side. They come and take a class and they say, I'm not artistic. And they take a class, and all of a sudden realize there's an artist inside of them, right? So watching have those experiences is my why.
I love that. And I relate to that so much, that, because events are all about experiences, and there's nothing like seeing the joy or the aha moments that come from events. So AKA experiences. I completely get that. And I feel like people blossom with events and experiences. And like you said, like they don't even realize what they have inside them until they just start. They just start or try something
Yeah.
new. So I totally relate with that.
Yeah. We are moving so fast all the
Yeah.
time. Also overextended and overscheduled, that's a
Hmm.
whole other conversation for another. Just that whole concept of hustling and having to be
Yeah.
on all the time.
Hmm.
That just come in and exhale. I always tell them, turn your phones off. Your husband, your babysitter will figure it out. Make this time
Right.
for just you. And I think it's really a gift
Hmm.
that I help them give them.
So what type of classes do you have coming up? What's a class you might have coming up maybe next week or something?
Yeah, so this Friday we're actually doing a girls' night in. We're going to play bunco and just have a really good time. So that's more of an experience. On Saturday we have a paint and plant class where you're going to paint a pot, and while that's drying, you'll do a little mini canvas, and then you're going to plant a plant. Oh, that's a tricky one. Next week, after that, we've got a spring Easter bunny watercolor painting, which is beautiful. We have knit crochet circle every Sunday from 1 to
Hmm.
3. So yeah, there's so many classes that I could go on and on. I think March is a really full schedule for us, and we also have. I probably have 4 or 5 private events too. So not only can you do public workshops with us, you can also schedule a private workshop where you bring your own circle of friends in, you bring your sips and bites, and you create a community with your people, and create something beautiful while creating memories.
Do you do any kid events at all? Or is it mostly
Mm-hmm.
adult? You do? Okay. This is
Yeah,
great
it's
to know.
mostly adults. Calls me and asks me if I'll do a kids party, of course I will do it. It's so fun to watch kids create.
Right.
Pre-COVID, I did summer camp too for kids, art camp, where they came in and created different type of art each day. So that's fun. I actually just had a young woman. She's a very talented artist, but she had her birthday party with me, and she wanted to do palette knife
Mm.
angels, and I really cool because I think it was her 12th birthday, and I thought, how like
Hmm.
beautiful. She appreciated the things that she saw. She comes in the shop a lot with her mom, and that she wanted to share that with her peers, and that she chose such a really a mature subject matter.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. So I'll be there. Okay. Might bring my little girl as well. But I kind of feel like it's also a form of self care.
Yeah.
Like you said, we've been through a lot these past couple years. How has the pandemic affected your business these past couple of years?
you know, um, I really had to pivot out the gate. So I was impacted in many ways. The first way is that at the start of the pandemic, I originally started this business with a business partner.
Mm-hmm.
At pandemic, she decided it was not for her anymore. So not only did I have to go from doing everything, splitting responsibilities, splitting the time in the shop, I had to go all in, all me, all the time, on top of a pandemic, trying to figure out how to keep the store going. At that point, I had already invested, 3 years and a lot of
Right.
savings
Right.
into making this business. I'll know it can take 3 to 5 years, especially with retail.
Mm-hmm.
So the time that we were closed down, we didn't really have an online presence. So that's the one thing that I would, say was we had an online presence for social media, but we didn't have an online. Our e-commerce
Right.
was just so I had to get everything online as
Right.
fast as possible. I had to think of ways, when you have a retail, a brick and mortar anyway, people are coming in for an experience even when they're shopping. Well, they can't do that online,
Right.
right? So I had to find ways to connect people with the store so that they still wanted to shop with me in the way that they could. So I started doing Instagram Live.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, take around the store and here's what's new. And I would really clearly describe things so that it made them feel like that they were in the store and have a shopping experience. So the lives was one, doing that helped a lot. And then I also do free local delivery. So those two things were things that were born from the pandemic that I have continued. But I was impacted because people weren't coming in. And I'm still impacted. I mean, we're still, at the beginning of COVID, everyone's like, support small, support small. And so people were really intentional about that, right? Time has waned on, people's habits changed. And so people have just kind of gotten into the habit of that soulless box by that company A to the N. I'll say, but it's a soulless box. There's a lot, right? And so, but people have gotten comfortable with it because it's easy and it's convenient. So really, I'm doing some research to try to figure out how do we get people comfortable coming back in. A lot of states didn't have the same changes that we had because they never closed.
Right.
So businesses, right? So it was business as usual. I was actually talking to a boutique in Florida, going to wholesale some of I do a lot of products. I create a lot of my own products too. And she wanted to wholesale one of my products. And I said, oh, well, do you want to meet on Zoom and I can show you? She's like, we never use Zoom. We never close down. So I don't know how to do that. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was kind of like, well, it's not my fault, but no. So, but what struck me about that once I got past like, wait, what does that mean? Was she's right. And that has been the most challenging piece of COVID is that, we got out of the habit here in Illinois. And so now how do we return people, right? So I was talking to my dad about this the other day, how did people come back out after polio? Or how did people come back out after the Spanish flu? Like, how did people return to normal? Like, how do we reconnect people? So that was the greatest challenge, was keeping people connected, and it continues to be a challenge, keeping people connected.
I completely agree. I feel that it's going to be a boom at some point. I feel like we're on the verge of it, but it goes back to what you just said of like, how do we make that transition? How do we inform people that, it's safe, it's okay, making sure that it's safe for them, and letting them know like we need to be connected. We just do. We need to be physically in person connected. By the way, we will have an in-person Lady Boss Roundtable coming up in May, so stay tuned. But like, I really wanted to have an in-person event for the summit, but with everything going on with the ramp of Omicron and whatnot, it was just, I wanted people to be safe. So I completely get that. So going back to mental roadblocks, I feel that it's difficult to create goals and to come up with a plan to try to achieve goals without first understanding what are your mental roadblocks and figuring out how to overcome them. What are some tips that you have for overcoming mental roadblocks?
Well, I'm going to share something with you. So, and I think it's okay to talk about this. A business is very similar to my business model, opened up on the block and are down on block. And you could say to yourself, well, that's great. Competition is great. Competition is great in an area that is at least 4 to 6 blocks wide. Yeah. On one block, it does is it creates confusion for the consumer.
Definitely.
They have to decide where are they going to spend their time and money. It creates then dissension in community. It doesn't build up community because it creates this awkward sort of division. Rivalry, because I don't feel like I'm in competition with anyone directly, but it is the competition, right? When they first opened, they said to me, well, I think it's great because I think there's enough pie for everyone. And I was like, shine for it. Because the sun isn't okay. In a pie pan, there's only so many slices of pie. It depends on how you cut it. But I don't care if you cut 6 pieces or 9 or 12 pieces. There's a beginning and an end to that pie.
Yeah.
Right? So I was really stressed. So that has been a major roadblock for me. Like, how am I going to survive? How am I going to make it if I have to have this direct competition? And if something clicked, I can't explain it to you, but I had to make the decision to stay in my lane and focus forward. When my son was younger and he was first playing football, he would play running back. And the coaches would say, stop looking back over your shoulder, because if you get hit, you could hurt your neck. So they were taught, and also then in track, same message. Don't look over your shoulder. That's how you get hurt. It also slow you down. So here I am spending all this time looking over my shoulder, causing my own mental roadblock. All I needed to do was stay the course and continue to do me. So whatever happens in this situation, I mean, ultimately time will tell, right? You know, but as is, I don't know if it's sustainable. You know, I don't know if the location that I'm in is going to continue to work. I'm going to continue to do my best, but I'm going to continue to do my best looking forward and not over. And so my advice to any, you know, with that being my roadblock, I guess I think a lot of small businesses compare themselves to other people and are always watching for what like the competition is doing or offering. And really what they need to focus on is their path ahead. Stay in your lane, right? Stay in your lane and focus on what's ahead of you and stop looking back over your shoulder. And I really have had to really focus on that.
Wow. We need to talk offline, because I have so many questions around just that scenario of.
Oh, there's so much to share with you.
Oh, wow. That has to be interesting.
Macroaggression, microaggression, so many things to share with you. And so much to share with you about how people look at pie and the concept of pie. And what does that, you know? So yes, let's definitely talk more about that.
Yeah, we have so much to talk about in general. Okay, so we talked about mental roadblocks. What about self-care? And I'm going to ask this question just by anyone who wants to ask any questions, please type it in, and we'll get those answered for you. But I'm going to keep going here. I want to ask about self-care. One of the things that came up at the summit was self-care. And how self-care, Dr. Truth stated, is not, you know, going to get your hair done and get your nails done and all that. I struggle with that a little bit, okay, because I see it both ways. But I do understand that she said that's maintenance. I get that. But I also feel so relaxed when I'm getting that facial. I do. I just feel so great at that spa. I feel like it's my me time. I'm away from the kid and the husband. That's self-care to me. Okay, let's not talk about, you know, the spa, etc. So what are your self-care tips that are not maintenance, but just taking time for yourself?
Yes. Well, taking time.
Yeah.
You know, so because I, you know, we're focusing on thriving, not just surviving. You know, I'm still working way more hours than I should, but I don't feel guilty about taking a couple extra hours and 2 mornings a week and going in a little later. So I not gulp down my coffee. I can sip it and I can, you know, be really intentional about spending time in my journal and planner about, like, you know, what do I have ahead of me today? What are my goals? Sometimes we move so fast through the day, we don't think we accomplish anything. So it's a really good time to sit and reflect on what happened the day before. What did I accomplish? You know, so I think that's self-care. Just, you know, honoring yourself. I create. That's how I do my self-care. You know, I don't get my nails done all the time or anything like that. I probably should do those things a little bit more, but because my hands are in pain all the time, it's kind of pointless. And I'm a cook, so I'm always dishes. But I think time, like self-care, when we talked about on Saturday, we were talking about self-care in respect to mental health and making sure that our minds were and our hearts were straight and not waiting till we were in crisis to seek help, right? So I know that that was one of her one of her points in bringing up self-care.
Right.
But I also think just saying this is my time that I'm allowing just for me. Who's really good at this? My daughter. Just to get she has a very clear schedule of how she spends her day and what time is allocated to her self-care. So whether that's a Pilates class or whatever, and on occasion I'll be like, hey, can you do this for me or that for me? And she'll be like, well, that's my Pilates time. And at first I was like, well, what is that supposed to mean? I've been like, what do you mean that's your Pilates time? I need you to do something. But then when you step back and you realize, wow, this generation of women, they get it. Like they're taking that time for their self-care. They're taking that time for themselves. And I remember one time she said to me, I was asking her about whether she had returned a call about something. And she's like, no, not yet. I will do it later. I was like, well, you got to do it. Because we're in this mindset, right? Go, 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 go. And she said something so interesting to me. She said, that's why you guys get burnt out.
Yeah.
Why your generation gets burnt out, because you feel like you have to be on all the time and responsive all the time. And I was like, but that's how we get things done. That's why we're so amazing. No. And we pride ourselves on multitasking. And she said there's no such thing as successful multitasking. You can't really multitask. I'm like, yes, you can. She's right. You can't. Because you cannot give everything you do 150%. Like you can do anything, but you can't do everything, right?
That's it. I try my hardest to focus on 3 things. I have a little whiteboard next to me. I have these 3 things I want to focus on. But underneath that, there's all these other little things. But it feels so good to just be able to mark those things off. Because honestly, at the end of the day, I feel like, what did I get done? That I can go back to this board and look and see, okay, I got that and that. Okay, girl, you got some stuff done today. Even though it might not.
But that's why you're so great at events. Yeah, but that's why you're so great at events. You know that, right? Because you like the beginning and the sense of completion.
Yes.
And with an event, it's a project, right? So there's a beginning and there's an end. There's a wrap up, right? And then you'll start another one.
Right.
There's probably for you, there's that great joy in completion.
Definitely. Definitely. So what's your joy? What's the thing that you love? Besides, I get seeing people transform, if you will, during your classes and whatnot. But what else is your joy?
Wow. What else is my joy? Well, I will tell you, I always considered myself a creative person, but I never considered myself an artist because I had never sold art, and because it was kind of put in my head that that's when you know you're an artist, when you've sold art. I've sold art recently. So
Sweet.
yes, I know, it's so exciting. I feel so silly about even mentioning it to you, but
no.
And I was nervous when I first sold the first piece because I was like, oh, I can't sell it. That's my soul in there, But then I realized, no, you're not giving away soul. You're yourself. You're sharing yourself with your art. And so I've sold 3 pieces now in the last 2 months. Yes. So that's bringing me joy. It's bringing me joy to know that something I'm creating, people love it and they want to own it in their own home and look at it every day. That's very joyful for me. Really joyful.
I relate. 100% relate. Etsy store owner. So I make things, and your quote unquote little things that you make is bringing someone else joy. And it's so fulfilling to create something that someone else finds valuable.
Yes.
Them joy. That brings me joy. So I totally relate to that.
Yeah. So that brings me joy. My children bring me joy. The people who are walking around in this world that are the only people who know what your heart sounds like on the inside. My little crumb maker, I call them crumb makers, because even though they're 20, 26, and 32, they just still leave crumbs every time they're around. You always know where they were. Joy, seeing my children happy, seeing my children successful, seeing my children enjoy.
Yeah.
Enjoy. That brings me joy.
I feel like going back to mental roadblocks, you have to take the time to figure out what does bring you joy. Try to, determine what those mental roadblocks are. Try to, overcome them, but also be focused on the joy, the things that bring you joy. So you don't get so bogged down so focused into, whatever you put in your mind that's holding you back, or whatever you've experienced that's holding you back. Because there really are things that hold you back, but you have to be able to sit down, figure out what they are, and address them.
Yeah. So speaking to that, another roadblock I had is I had this idea that I had to keep getting followers. I got to grow my followers. I got to grow my followers, because if I don't grow my followers, it translates to sales, right? So I had that, like, literally banging my head against the wall with that concept. Instead, focus on you.
What's that? I'm sorry, you broke out a little.
Focus on who is following.
Yeah. That's negative in your mind to a positive. You're looking at it a different way. That's what we have to do.
Yeah. 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 So that's, again, stop looking over your shoulder. Look forward.
I want to comment on Aliman 250. I love what he or she said. I can't tell. Sorry. You need to make an appointment to do you. Whatever refreshes you, you will be more productive. I agree with that. If you just take the time, schedule it. You might have to schedule in your calendar, seriously, to just take that time for yourself. I can't say I'm at the gym. I should have today. And I'm like, no, I'm so focused on this and that. No, I should have taken that time. It came back to this and that, and been more refreshed after going to the gym.
Right. Well, yeah, I agree. I think
ask you one more thing. You talked about your gratitude wall, gratitude poster. Can you share that with the audience today?
Yeah, I'll share that with you, and then I'm going to have to wrap up with you guys too. So the wall is every time I've received a note of gratitude or an acknowledgement of something I have given someone, I put it on the wall. So on those days when I need a little extra, Nicole Lamb calls it glitter. She's amazing. I have her journal planner, but she calls it glitter. So I just kind of grab some of that glitter and I use that to refuel me. I use it to fill my cup up when my cup is feeling empty, And so I think that if you can also hole punch them and put it on a ring, and just hang it on a knob. Like, you don't have to have a whole bulletin board if you have a space. But I think always holding on to those messages of gratitude is a great reminder for, what's important,
exactly.
And to remember that you are making a bigger impact.
Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing everything else you had shared today. And I look forward to connecting with you in the future. Can you let the audience know where else they can find you? Your website and IG?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so you can follow at The Collective Lifestyle Shop here on Instagram. You can just go ahead and click that. And we're also The Collective LHE on Facebook. And I just look forward to seeing you guys in the shop.
Sounds good. Thank you, Autumn, guys. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Latoya. I appreciate you.
Bye. Have a good night. All right. I hope you enjoyed that. We have a whole Q&A, but I need you all to actually put in some questions here. We have another Q&A tomorrow with Miss Jamila Amor from Amor Foundation. So be back. Please come back tomorrow, at 7 p.m. Also, feel free to join our Facebook group. It's called Lady Boss Roundtable, and it's free to join. Just go on to Facebook and type in Lady Boss Roundtable. Like I mentioned earlier, we do plan on having an in-person event, a networking event, more than likely in Chicago and more than likely in May. So just keep on the lookout for that. And as soon as I confirm a venue and all the good details, I will definitely share that with you all. Also, I am developing a recap, a replay of the summit that just took place where the focus was on overcoming mental roadblocks. So the replay of that will become available next week. And if you missed the workshop for purpose-driven goal setting, that replay will be available next week as well. So hope to see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Have a great night.